apologies for delaying there. Um, what we did this last year too. What is your one word that summarizes the 24-25 school year? So think about that one word as we're starting to wrap up semester two, and obviously closing up the school year. And then secondly, once you get your word, what is something or the one thing that you're most proud of? What is your big accomplishment this year? All right, when you're ready, you can put your one word in the chat and then come off mute. I want you to share what you're most proud of. Persevere.
I could share some of my proud things.
Please, I'm ready.
Um, I'm proud of the relationships that I've been developing with the STs because their plates are full and this is just another hoop for them. And even though Jen Tatum said a bunch of people reached out to her saying that they was too busy for them, they couldn't do it, I really didn't feel the pushback. So either they're just extremely polite to me, or maybe I was able to ease them into it. Like for example, one of the STs I did a few things that I could asynchronously. I build more relationship in person, so I don't just offer that, but if I hear that they're really stressed out, I'll offer that. So, and then one more thing. So one of the things that I was telling the coaches is I was realizing, I come from the high school, we have a learning lab once a week. They're supposed to reflect on their learning lab. They have their post meeting with me within 2 to 3 days of their observation. Well, when I do that with the elementary, they had already done 2 to 3 learning labs, and we're trying to reflect on 2 to 3 behind. So second semester, I implemented same day observations and post observations, which is a little stressful for me, but it doesn't really add any extra stress to them. And that's been working really well. So I was really proud of myself to push myself and to keep those relationships going and to actually have them actually reflect on the learning lab that I actually observed.
That is teaching 101, right? Reflecting on how you executed your lesson plan and how you know students learned. So I'm so thankful that they had that opportunity to actually sit down and think about it and improve some processes. And it sounded like your approach, building those relationships and giving them the opportunity to get that real-time feedback probably built a lot of trust. So I'm glad you saw that relationship building this year because that's again critical to develop foundational trust. Thanks for sharing, Michelle. Erica, depending, anyone else? No worries, Rach. I saw your chat come in. Glad you're back. Roller coaster. I would say mine is challenging. This year has been really challenging. Fluctuation, ambiguity. Yeah, that too. Yeah. Anyone else want to come off mute? What are you most proud of this year?
I'll just explain depending. Depending is because I'm finding that I can really depend on people. I get a lot of really quick feedback throughout the year or communication back. And being here for as long as I have, the relationships have really grown. And this is my second year working with you, Kristen. And I think we've really grown together as well as we partner together as TOSAs. And it's been nice to depend on you and know that you're going to always respond back. So thank you.
Y'all have built a great program. Luis, have you thought of one yet?
I haven't thought of a word. I kind of hard to put into a word, but something that I'm proud of is that I've been able to kind of take on these projects that I get from like directors or coordinators and I'm able to resolve it in a pretty reasonable time and then like with their feedback I can tell that it's really helped them. So I'm proud of that.
Absolutely. And I would agree with Erica too. I can always depend on you, Luis. I'm stuck, I'm losing my mind a little bit. I can pull you into a quick meeting and help me problem solve. So I appreciate that about you. Yeah, this team is very dependable. All right, we are just wrapping up. Andrea, we were thinking about our one word that summarizes the 24-25 school year and then what you're most proud of. So I'll have you put that in the chat when you're ready. I'm going to share my agenda, or yeah, my screen, which is the agenda. Okay, couple reminders before we get into a work session. Final meeting is in 2 weeks, so make sure you are ready to present your learning for the year. We're going to do about 5 minutes each. So just, you don't have to take 5 minutes, but I'm going to do a 5-minute cap since there's 10 of us. And we have usually a 50-minute meeting. I did put it to an hour. So if you have a 10 a.m., just be mindful that you'll have to just be popping in quickly to that meeting instead of getting a 10-minute transition break, just to make sure we give everybody enough time to share and showcase their learning for this year and share what pathway they were working on and some of these reflection questions. You don't have to implement them if you don't want to. It's just a guide, and this comes directly from your growth plan. There is a link to the slide deck that says old in your growth plan as well. If you want to capture all of your learning and evidence on this slide deck, feel free to use it. You can create your own slide deck, whatever you want to do. I'm not going to provide a specific template. You can just prepare whatever makes sense to you, and you can use your creativity to showcase what you learned and worked on throughout the year. Does that make sense? Questions on that? All right. I'm just going to skip down here. So with that said, our final meeting will be in 2 weeks. We don't have a meeting in June. So I'm out of office that week that we would have our meeting. So obviously it's been removed from your calendar. So just FYI, when we meet in 2 weeks, that's going to be our final meeting for the year. Okay, take a peek. I just want to give everybody a quick opportunity to see where we're at for CAS. And just to let the team know, the leadership team has been meeting pretty frequently. And what I mean by that is the academic leadership team met last Tuesday morning, and then the entire management team met on Monday. And we extensively reviewed the data and just shared how important it is to increase YOLO participation. Because again, we are in that low tier this year. So if we don't get out of the low tier next year, which means this year's data, then it's pretty much a non-renewal for charter. So we would have to close the charter in 2026-27 school year. If you look at this line here, line 20, this is last year, you can see we are making really good progress overall. We've already increased our numbers from last year, but we're not there yet. So line 16 says that we are at 89% in YOLO. We will get that loss penalty regardless because we are at 7% opt-outs, and that doesn't include those passive opt-outs, the MIA scholars that just don't respond and won't test. So we are facing that loss penalty 2% right now because we don't get dinged until 95%. And then Los Angeles, we're almost there at about 90 or 89%. And then San Diego is looking really good. We're at about 94% in San Diego. So really good job, team. I know y'all did such a great job with hosting CAS makeups and supporting this initiative. Still have a little bit a ways to go. Technically, we can test until the last day of school. That window is open until June 10th. But we really want to push hard and finish, by the end of May. So we know where we stand come June 1st. So if we need to get there at the end of the school year, again, that's fine, but really trying to push hard to close in May. questions on participation? Or Beth and Tosa, do you want to add anything?
I just want to bring like a something to consider. I don't want to make a decision right now, but I want to get this team's input if you want to chat me or email me later. I was thinking as we plan next year and possibly tightening up the schedule, we could end the CASP window after the 5 or 6 weeks of testing, which would mean when new scholars enroll, we wouldn't have to test them because our window would be closed. And so that's something that we can consider. Like we might want to look at the data after this year and see like how much of a difference those new scholars might have made to increase our percentage. But it also increases our denominator when we're doing that calculation because it's adding to our population. So if they come in and don't test, like we had a new one that came in that had opted out at the previous school, then that's going to count against us. So just something to think about if you guys kind of want to let that stew for a little while. And then if you have ideas, just feel free to chat or email me and let me know your thoughts. And then Casey and I will discuss it as she and I meet to start planning for next year. We're coming to some conclusions on that. We should have the draft of a plan by the end of the month.
That's a really good point, Beth. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, so we want to see if that impact the new scholars. Are they really impacting our participation or are they adding value? In other words, what Beth said, increasing that denominator. Go ahead, Kristen.
I think kind of piggyback on that, Beth, like I heard one of the STs told me that like one of the ways she gets her families to participate is the way she calls it. So she doesn't call it state testing. She's like, oh, we have to take the SBAC assessment. And most parents, because they don't, they don't understand all of our acronyms, so to speak. She's like, most of our families just come in and take it because they think of it like STAR. Like it doesn't put this like that label on it. And so she's like, my families don't even ask because I'm like, oh, it's time for SBAC testing. Like we did STAR, we're gonna do SBAC and like move on. So even maybe like considering the verbiage and the language we use around it, I don't know if that'd make it help, but it was just a point that got brought up that I thought was kind of interesting.
I think that's extremely helpful too, Kristen. And actually a few years ago, we tried to change that terminology from test to assessment for that very reason, because a test is a scary word and it has a lot of implications. But if it's an assessment, it's more friendly and it's like, show us what you know, try your best, show us your, again, your growth from year to year. So I really like that, though, is maybe avoiding labeling it test assessment at all and just say, oh, we're taking CASP or we're taking SBAC. So definitely something to think about and trying to increase participation and just removing that terminology altogether.
In addition, though, it seems like every single year we have discussions. I don't know if online has the same, but in options about how difficult it is to get students in during this window of time because they don't have funding. You're trying to pull together a bunch of random assignments for them. And in addition, there's all of the testing that needs to be done. And I don't know what the turnover rate is in terms of re-enrollment, but for a lot of kids that are coming in at this time of year, it's not necessarily guaranteed they're going to go forth with us. So I just wonder, we've had this conversation every year. Is there a conversation about just kind of stopping the moment that we enroll people? I know if we hit our enrollment caps, we're fine, but then if we disenroll somebody, that would mean that we would have an open seat. And so I'm just, is there a way to put a date on our enrollment end?
Not right now, no. Obviously, we don't have, with the enrollment caps, we don't have enough scholars at this point to, as you said, have a cap. And then our charter, as it's written, has open enrollment. So that means we can't legally put a date on it. So, and it's, I don't know if it's actually illegal in some areas. It's actually illegal to prevent people from re-enrolling. So technically, if you drop a scholar because for ISE, you can put a date that they have to re-enroll in another school. Technically, it's within 5 days, but then they can come back and we can put a date like within, after 30 days, if you want to re-enroll, you can, but we cannot prevent them from re-enrolling entirely. So with that said, what's in our charter means we cannot, what's the word I'm looking for? Prevent students from enrolling at any point. But it's a good thought. It's just legally we can't do it.
Yeah, but by changing or closing our task window, we could
Right.
accomplish some of that. It would essentially be like if we did it the 3 weeks before spring break next year and then said 3 weeks after, because it always seems like even though we only do 2 weeks of makeup, we always have this last week where we get that scramble and everybody is like, okay, one last push before we shift to STAR. So if we ended our cast window on like May 1st, which is that final Friday, that would give us 6 weeks of testing essentially. And then anybody that enrolled in May, we wouldn't have to test because our window would be closed.
Mhm.
And that's how the state has written it. Like if they enroll during your window, you have to test them. But if they enroll and your window's closed, then you don't have to, even if they didn't test at a previous school.
Yeah, it might be worth looking into. So definitely stew on that a little bit and provide some feedback to Beth. It's a really good idea. And what was I going to say? Oh, you also have to have 25 calendar days of testing. So it has to include the full window legally. Have you for CDE, you have to have 25 days of testing. So we can't shorten it. If that makes sense. I think it does, but I didn't say it right. 25 days in the window and you can't shorten it. There. Holy moly. Okay. Quick project update. Open our team's major projects spreadsheet and then go to your tab and take a couple minutes just to update where we're at individually. And then we're going to take about 2 minutes just to share big ticket items right now, like what's top of mind. Just quickly go over, less than 2 minutes. What is top of mind? What are you working on right now? So let me stop sharing, sorry. Take a couple minutes, go in there and update. And then I'll call you back here in about 5, and we'll start going through our major projects. Questions? All right, you can turn your camera off. I'll see you back here at 9:26. Okay, we'll start alpha order. So again, just a quick high-level update. Please don't go through everything. Just pick top of mind area that you're focusing on right now to share, as we won't have time to go through everything. Andrea, are you ready? No worries. If not, we can skip and come back.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Do you want me to share like my true honest thoughts or like a milestone summary? I feel like when I should be sharing those are only like positive milestones, but is it more like
You can share some challenges.
check in? Like, and maybe it's just the things that I chose to write on there. I still really like what I have on here, but if I'm being realistic, like 100% doesn't mean we're 100% there. We're just kind of there at the end of the year for all we can do so far, right? Like,
What's in the locus of your control? So don't worry about external influences. Did you accomplish what you set to accomplish?
I feel like I have been very vocal in the importance of dedicated time for teachers to have organic conversations of how to implement Avid and how to embed resources into their own class. That's the conversation, the push, the support, the need. I feel like I have done my part consistently in the year, but I don't feel like progress is 100%. I think it's starting. There have been times, but I mean, I'm putting 100% progress because the year's almost over. you know what I mean? But in terms of milestone summary, that's really tricky because that is outside of my control. I will, yeah. So I was just kind of writing notes for myself in that column. I don't want to take the whole time. What I can say, the things that I am in control of, I am confident that I'm continuing to build in Avid and make a difference for the scholars in the class and push the movement continuously in the spaces that I am a part of.
Yeah. And I would agree. You're doing a great job leading the site team meetings. You're doing a great job gathering input and sharing those bite-sized resources weekly in the ASU on that one comprehensive slide deck. But it's just about the accountability and support. We want to make sure that we have support from the coordinators to ensure these strategies are being implemented when they do their, especially when they do their observations. That's what I mean by accountability. But
Yeah. And of course I want to do better. I'm not saying like I'm doing this great job. I just mean the spaces that I am, I feel like the energy, the thought, the support is there. I want to continue to build that support and campus friendly facing resources, but it's mostly the organic space to do that. So I'll update this a little bit more as well.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Questions for Andrea before we move on to Carrie?
And I did tell a fellow peer that I was going to bring up Avid in the meeting yesterday. And I was like, this is a long conversation. I'm not sure we're going to get it in this 25-minute chunk, but I definitely just want to be there to support the group. And maybe that's a follow-up conversation.
Yeah, we can, when we meet one-on-one in a little bit, we can talk about that. All right, Carrie, when you're ready.
So my urgent things right now are getting the remaining LPAC, summative LPACs scheduled and done. So I just got 2 more scheduled this morning for, I think, Friday.
Nice.
So that's the urgent thing. And then also just monitoring the notifications that come in and learning even more about it as more things happen or different times of the year. So yeah. And then I'm going to be looking into maybe adding to the pathway that I did this year and doing another more advanced Spanish class.
Nice.
So trying to find a good one. The one I did was pretty good, but a little basic. So I'd like to dig in deeper. And then, yeah, Beth and I came up with an idea for maybe creating a guide or graphic, something that I can share with STs regarding the LPAC process, just to help, I guess, inform them even more on what it looks like. And because I kind of learned in my meetings with my peer that she didn't understand it at all and she loved learning about it. So maybe creating more information on what I do and what the scholar goes through, where the process. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I like that a lot. And that would maybe bring awareness to how critical it is to get to that 100% participation.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing a great job with
Yeah.
ensuring that we're getting there. And thank you for scheduling 2 more this week. And team, we're at about 94%, give or take, across the board. So almost there. And the hard deadline is May 30th. Typically, or essentially it's the 31st, but that's a Saturday. So Friday the 30th is the very hard deadline. Thank you so much, Carrie. Any questions before we move on to Beth? All right, Beth, when you're ready.
Okay, I don't know how I got out of order there. I'll move my tab back.
I know. I think I probably messed it up, but
I was thinking it was alphabetical. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
well,
I'm like,
that's
maybe I
something.
grabbed it and moved it when I went. I don't know what happened.
Fine.
But, anyway, yeah, like Carrie said, just finishing up LPAC, also finishing up CAS. I'm hosting an LA session this morning at 10:30. No Zoom, just sharing the session with whoever needs it, and I'll just approve the kids as they come in and check them against the roster. Luis and I will start working on the STAR deck soon, and then after the last day of school, we'll look at getting all of the data in there. We have a deadline for Acton coming up quick on the 20th of June. So we haven't had any more circle requests, but we're open to doing them, and we're refining our practices and prepping for the conference. DEI committee hosted the final discussion group, and then Liz is going to come to our final meeting this month we switched our date to accommodate her schedule because she was going to be out of town for graduation. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Aubrey. I think I'm totally out of the loop. So, and then the Tom SACE integration, I had to defer. There's something with the charter schools CDS codes that is preventing that. So we went old school and did some uploads, and that worked just fine this year. So
Looks great. Making progress and everything. Almost there. And yeah, don't worry about Aubrey. I'm stuck too. Questions for Beth? All right, Erica, when you're ready.
All right. So, yeah, just a year of support, a year of LPAC, a year of CASP. I feel like maybe if I were to highlight one, it would be probably LPAC. You know, I really felt like, Beth, you did a really good job just kind of bringing it back to our community circle work and showing that there's an impact in what we're doing, and that was really helpful. So I think supporting LPAC, using that combination of collaboration, the relationship building, working with kids one-on-one and working with other teachers one-on-one is always really something that I look forward to. So those are the main projects that you see up there on the screen, and the only one I'm continuing to work on is just working on that, just writing and CASP, and always just continually working to edit the stuff that we have in AE to make sure that it's providing that writing support that these kids need.
Yeah, I heard an update from, I think it was ILT, maybe online ILT. That's going to be a big initiative next year to start supporting all things writing in AE and just kind of customize and embed those writing skills and strategies. So I think that in those course customizations, so I think that's critical. So thank you for being a good voice and advocate of that. Questions for Erica? All right. Top of mind for me is conference planning. Developed a committee to get some feedback. We did finalize the schedule, which was a huge milestone. We are getting input on team time because it is going to be a full day on Wednesday and then a wrap-up reflection a couple hours on Thursday. So what that cross-departmental time will look like, having smaller teams join the larger teams and really making sure that we are adding value to their meetings and coming in with an agenda, if you will, and a structure. So that is top of mind for me. And then CAW is another all time consuming initiative right now. Making really good progress with getting our Mod Severe scholars scheduled. They do have to be in person, so there's a lot of logistics behind that, a lot of travel. The ESs are having to get on a plane, go to Northern California, so booking hotels, booking spaces for them to test because we can't do libraries for the most part because it's 2 hour minimum or maximum for the study room. So we have to reserve a different type of conference room, a lot of logistics, a lot of planning, lots of headaches. But the good news is that we're having, again, Mod Severe Scholars test this year more than ever. So all good things. Questions for me before we move on to Kelly? All right, Kelly, when you're ready.
I just feel like this year has been jumping through like from random task to random task. There's just been so much going on, and there's been so much like start something and then it changes, and then start something and then it changes this year. So I feel a little disjointed, but the thing that's gone steady almost all the way through is that PK3 or the TK3 pathway from SDCOE. So I'm 6 courses through the 8, so just 2 more and I'll be finished early August, and that's going good. There's just a lot of things going on the bottom. Kristen did almost the entire options by module work, so I can't take credit for that, but that task is completed. But it was like entirely completed by Kristen. I don't know when she got any kind of sleep during that time. And I'm looking forward to going back to doing the community circle work next year when this PK3 stuff is finished, to be back in that group.
Amazing work. Questions for Kelly? All right, and kudos to Kristen for that module syllabi work. Go ahead, Kristen.
Yeah, so it's been, I said roller coaster, and this is why, right? Like it has been this up and down all year. I successes were definitely like getting LPAC cast done. My last LPAC scheduled for Thursday, so then my roster will be officially done with LPAC.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just that's been the whirlwind, and then having the modules work on top of it. So it is in the final stages. I have a couple of pacing guides to finish up, and then they're like sample pacing guides. And then other than that, it is just proofreading, editing, making sure that we have all the T's crossed and I's dotted, and then they're ready. They're ready to roll for next year. They're live documents, so it'll be ongoing. And Andrea, when you were talking, that's one of the things maybe next year you and I can partner up on and see if we can't find ways to embed some of those Avid strategies a little bit more into the modules. And so, letting those be seen. But yeah, there's at least a groundwork ready to build off of.
I love that idea. And I know Andrea is always willing to partner. So thank you, Kristen. Any questions before we move on to Luis? All right, Luis, when you're ready.
Yeah, so my projects, I'd say I just finished probably the highest priority one was the mental or scholar mental health data, which was just basically taking data from the scholar survey and cleaning that up and making it into pivot tables and charts. So it it looks like it's 100% now, but maybe in the future we'll create like subgroups so then that could easily go back into high priority. Aside from that, it's just updating the SIS data sheet and the STAR data sheet. Um, doing it twice a week now. And then the Acted STAR data, that's gonna be next. So I'm already starting to prep
Great.
the sheets for those.
Yes, I know that's a big project. So thank you so much for being proactive. Questions for Luis? All right, good job as always. Go ahead, Michelle.
So I'm finishing up coaching. I got kind of a late start, long story, but finishing that up. Everyone's scheduled, just working through it. But some of the kind of cool end of year things for me was May 1st, I had a virtual assembly, Asian Pacific Heritage Month. Only one scholar showed up, but it was still fun, and it was fun partnering with someone else. And I made so they had these Zoom norms. It was extremely wordy. So I threw it into ChatGPT and I copied the online elementary team's cute Zoom norms with pictures, and I made her a couple of options so that she could use that moving forward. I think it's a lot nicer.
Yes.
And then thank you, Beth, for suggesting I needed a field trip, and Petco Park finally came through. I was getting scared what was going to happen if I didn't meet my obligations. And Petco Park is on May 22nd. So phew,
Be
I
fun.
got this menu stuff in.
Gotta eat some good food. The Petco Park has amazing food. It's like one of the best ballparks there is in the country, in my opinion. Great job, Michelle. Any questions? Last but not least, Rach.
I've been on that Petco Park tour. It's really cool, Michelle. They take you like through the press box and everything. It's fun. You'll enjoy. So I think my major thing is that observations were really good this year, and I stepped like a little bit away from our traditional version, but that opened up. I mean, I did have quite a few do just the traditional observation round, but I opened up to like partnering to work on other areas too. And that started this year with kind of like people being really overwhelmed in the SIS. And so I got to work on some like planning and how that translated into SIS and those things. So it just opened up some more conversations that I felt were really like beneficial. So kind of trying to focus on really where's the need of the teacher, because so many teachers have sync instruction really underway and under control. And not to say that peer work on that isn't always helpful, but and kind of being able to focus on some connections and more specific individualized observations was kind of cool. So I feel like that was the win this year. I did try to I jumped in for a micro minute compared to how much Kristen did on that work. So yeah, I didn't do a whole lot with that, but that was something I was kind of keeping my eye on. And so maybe if there's more to be done, I'll jump back into that next year. And then next year, I'm looking forward to starting the admin credential. That was something that came up and I waffled, and I appreciate Casey's support and guidance on that and motivation to kind of go that direction. So I'm looking forward to that next step as well.
Well, you're a great leader already, so this will just give you additional tools in your toolbox. You're going to be great. Great job, Reach. Any questions? All right, team. Last thing, I'm gonna keep the room open until 10 if you want to work with your buddy, your peer on your growth plan, because I'll open up some breakout rooms. But if you want to pop off at 9:50, feel free to do so. I just want to give you the rest of the time to work on your growth plan so we're ready by the 28th. Before the end of the day, just put in some updates. My apologies that we're not going to be able to verbalize them today. So just add your updates and then any committee updates and when your next meeting is, so I can add a little write-up here that you can share on behalf of the staff support team. But again, feel free to use this slide deck. Feel free to make your own, whatever you want to do. For the celebration of learning piece, it links directly in your growth plan under here. So you'll also have to fill this piece out. And then if you're my direct report, tag me when you're done by May 30th so I can review and add some comments too. So, but in terms of your showcasing what you learned, I'm going to give you the rest of the time. You can meet with your buddy. I'll open up some breakout rooms. I'll keep the room open until 10. If you need to pop off at 9:50, like I said, feel free to do so. But thanks everybody. Any questions for me before I open up breakouts and can give you the rest of the time to work on your celebration learning? Okay.